Now we're gonna look at some of the general background TA, like the S&P and the DXY, and then we're gonna have a look at what news and events are coming up this week, so that we can plan around the volatility that it might trigger. And then we're going to look at ETH and Bitcoin on the daily. I will be using more the daily and the 4-hourly timeframes at the moment, because the 1 hour is too small. The 1 hour is just ranging, and the stock is resetting to the upside and to the downside, but not much is happening in terms of support and resistance. So I'm going to start with the DXY. I was just talking there with Roy about it, and the DXY has closed on Friday above support and is continuing today on Monday above support too. So on Friday we had this. I'm gonna switch this this trader's reality indicator off. So on Friday we closed above the 20 MA on the daily. So we closed above the midline of the Bollinger. I'm looking at this as the third test at the moment. So considering this is where it broke it and started coming down, back test 1, back test 2, back test 3. So this would be the third back test. At the moment, it's facing the top of the Bollinger, which we can see previously had a hard time getting through it. But it is resting on this support and resistance line, which goes all the way back to here, December 2016. So 7 years ago, this line has been resistance. It became resistance here as well, and now it is back into support. And we can see the parabolic run that it had once it broke through it previously. Now we are not a lift for the DXY would mean a drop for stocks and crypto. That's how they generally operate. We were talking this morning about the DXY dropping and also stocks and crypto dropping if the economy and the economic indicators point to the downside, and if we have any sort of reason to switch over to long-term assets and commodities like bonds or gold or silver or copper, the likes of these, which are stores of a value in the long term in case there is a recession or a depression. So at the moment, the indicators are not pointing to that. On the contrary, what came out so far in January is quite positive. In Europe, it's above in some countries above the 50. But we need to see how we're going to get through this turning point. So the DXY is at a turning point for the up, while the S&P is the other way around. So the S&P closed Friday with a down candle. It's still holding support, but the stochastic on the daily has turned down. So if we look, for instance, at what happened here when the stochastic has turned down after such a long time in the overbought area, we can see that a correction, a 0.5 correction here happened, and then this swing here happened, because it's this stretch of overbought is similar to both here and here. So it's still at least a couple of days of correction if we are to look at previous swings. Now that correction can be down to the midline for now and then continuing up, or can be down to the bottom line and making the M formation. It could be both levels. What I could do right now is I would be able to tell you what the fibs for the most recent swing would indicate, but I wouldn't be able to say for sure. So a golden pocket correction is backtesting the divergence line. a one-to-one correction back tests the channel line. So thereabouts would be my immediate target. Why am I now at the moment, with how we are going on the daily and on the weekly on the S&P, is the daily has turned down and the weekly is up. So that again, when they're not aligned, more sideways is in order. The 4 hour is up, so the 4 hour is going against the daily, and we have to see if the daily is going to continue pushing today downwards and turn the 4 hour, because the 4 hour is to the upside, so it would have space to turn. We need to wait for New York to see how this is going to play out. In my opinion, this is going to have its correction. I think we will have more downside today and this week, to be honest. It doesn't seem like this will stop once it gets correcting. Okay, now about the news. I'm doing a lot of I'm sorry about today. Today is a quiet day. Today it doesn't have any particular news coming out. We haven't had any high impact. Canadian dollar is out at 3 p.m. A little bit of, I don't know what this is, IVPMI. Tomorrow is a big day because we have Fed Chair Powell speaking, and he will be speaking in a moderated discussion at the Economic Club of Washington, D.C. So this would be quite relevant to the economic background for this rally, whether this rally is to continue or not. On Wednesday, we have again an FOMC talk around 2:15. We have also the 10-year bond auction and again another FOMC talk. On Thursday, we have for the GDP, the monetary policies. We have for the USD, the unemployment claims, and we have for the Eurozone, the EU economic forecasts. And then we have on Friday, which will be generally the highest volatility day, we have the inflation expectations, the consumer sentiment, and again an FOMC member speaking. So all of these news coming starting Tuesday will bring great volatility in the market, and it's a question whether this is gonna continue the bullish run or reverse it. Now, there are voices saying that if we're looking at the assets, also gold, we have been coming out of the bear market, and probably this week will be the time when this proves itself, because this is the weekly setup of the S&P. And if I were to look at this weekly setup for the S&P, I would be looking at this structure as a rounded bottom structure, and here it is, the S&P above the 50 EMA on the weekly with the 5 crossing over to the upside. So we've had this as the M formation. We dropped, came up, dropped again, came up again, dropped again, came up again. Is this 3 steps down or a push if you are to consider this first, this second, and this third, with a little bit of a difference between the second and the third? To me, it's too low of a difference to be considered a level, but I'm looking at this rounded bottom, and I'm looking at the support on the weekly on the S&P, and I can definitely understand why some analysts would say we are coming out of the bear market and we have the TA to show it. So this is a solid structure on the weekly. It hasn't yet, to me, the confirmation of this lift is breaking the peak formation support and resistance, this peak line, And when this peak line breaks, then we are looking at continuing to the upside, and then we need the previous high to break for this not to end in a massive M formation, which would be a very severe thing to see. It would be very, very dramatic to see that. A double top here in the S&P would be very severe. Economically speaking, if we don't break this, I don't see any other direction but downwards. But we need to have a look at the charts when we get there. The S&P has a slower momentum than crypto, so it also, yeah, a smaller momentum than crypto, so we need to see how this moves. Now, going into our Bitcoin and BTC and ETH charts, we have the MACD coming down on the daily, and we have the stochastic on the daily absolutely floored. So it's got it's almost close to hitting zero. It's very acutely down. To be honest, when this happened in such a scenario, if we're looking, for instance, let me find you another example that is similar to this. Here, I'll find you two examples in this bear run. So one of the examples would be here. Another example would be here. Another example would be here. So we are at the top, at the very top. Here, I believe is more similar to where we are because we have also the crossings of the 20 MA. So it looks like the daily is floored, and it looks like it would need to come up to catch a little bit of a breather. This is where I got trapped a while back in April, because it looked spot on for a reversal, and look how much it kept going without budging. Like, it stayed at the bottom and then went up quite a lot with a small swing, and then continued down just very dramatically. So you can see that there were some zigzags here, but here the fact that this was floored didn't mean that it reversed. On the contrary, the same here, it went down in a straight line. There was no how can I say, no retrace. It was a lot more ruthless than here. It just went day after day, drop after drop. And then where was it? And then here there was a little bit of consolidation here to make this lift happen, and then there was a drop. So you can see that the fact that the stochastic is at the bottom doesn't mean that there will be a retrace. There could be a little bit of a lift to catch a breather, and then continuation to the downside. So that could be the case. But I at the moment, we don't have any indication that a drop like this might happen on the daily, because we don't have the breaking of the 20. In all of these cases, we saw the breaking of here we saw the breaking of the 20, here we saw the breaking of the 20, here we saw the breaking of the 20. At the moment, the 20 for Bitcoin is holding. The 22.4 level is holding. Once that breaks, a back test and continuation to the downside, in my opinion, are imminent. We have on the 4-hour almost the crossings of the two EMAs, the 20 and the 55. And here is the 4-hour structure that I've been watching for the past 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Now, I redid the lines, and I know that this might not be the best, how can I say, appearance of this. It's not a pretty picture, but I believe it paints quite a solid picture of what's happening now, because because of all these wicks and all the sideways, we have a core level which is between these two. So this is the core, and those, we have the top range, and then we have the bottom range, and we can see that the core was broken at the weekend. It was back tested, and then it continued to the bottom, but at the moment it is holding that bottom support structure, and I believe that the market might still continue to range until Powell speaks tomorrow, and then there might be some more volatility sideways. I am waiting for the New York session to see if there is an 0618 entry for me in terms of the daily levels, but at the moment, because of how can I say, contradictory the stochastics are, it's hard to anticipate direction. The 4-hour is floored, and the 1 hour is just coming down from the top. I'm not gonna enter when the momentum is like that, because it's more likely to be sideways, and then maybe spiking the tops, spiking the bottoms until New York starts. And an hour into New York, we will have had the spikes to the top, the spikes to the bottom, and then we might have a swing to put a fib on. And of course, I'll keep you updated if I do see an entry around that time. So the levels to look at for BTC are there's my arc. There's my arc. Perfect. So the levels are the same that we've had over the past weeks. I have adjusted this. I don't know why it's not saved. Okay, so we have 22.3, which is the main support, and then we have 25.5 and 26.6, which are possible targets to the upside. Where we are right now, Bitcoin does seem to have had its level 1, level 2, level 3 left. That's what it seems to me. And of course, if we break the 22.3, there will be a reversal down. Now, I believe that the juicy trade would be the reversal down, which would be about a 19% drop. We don't have that confirmation yet, because that local level is not yet broken. So we are still holding that level, as you have seen in the 4-hour wedge, and as you have seen in the on the horizontal line. So both, I know they're very similar. This is more useful for the bigger picture, and the wedge is more useful for monitoring the breakout. So we have broken the core of this, but we haven't broken out of this structure. And yes, it could come all the way down to 2900 to 200 on the 4-hour in a straight flash, and there would be some consolidation there for continuation in the bigger picture, because if it gets to 2900 and let's say 21k, so if it gets to 21k, we are below the 22.3, and I don't think that it's going to stop until it does its correction for the swing. And I know I'm repeating myself, but this swing still hasn't corrected, and the golden pocket would be the 18.4702 would be 17.7. So anywhere around that area would be back testing this structure that it broke out of, this W formation, and then if there is strength in the market to continue to the upside, it will continue to the upside. If there is not strength in the market, we will probably see lower levels and coming down for level 3. But at the moment, could we have in the short term a spike down? Yes, we could. Spike down to, again, this bottom of the line, and then a little bit of sideways, and then a lift up to backtest the 50 on the 4 hour, and then there the 4 hour will have got a little bit of a breather. The daily might have got a little bit of a breather, and tomorrow, if Powell is hawkish, more downside. So that's, I see a possible spike to the low, and then a spike to the high, and then continuation to the downside. That's how I believe this will play out. It has been sitting around this for a long time. It's been sitting around here for 1, 2, 3, 4, almost 5 4-hour candles, and it hasn't really gone anywhere. It's stayed in here. So I believe we might see a slightly lower low. This is what New York generally likes to do, and then a spike high to liquidate some shorts, especially the high leverage, and then continuation to the downside. So what I would be waiting around New York time is that spike to the high, and I would be putting a fib on that and trying to get an entry there. So if it comes up to here, does a little bit of this, and this sideways, it rehabilitates the 4 hour ever so slightly, and then continues to the downside. Let me just put a nicer path, because I want to post this later. So from a spike to here, and then go up to back test, and then a little bit of a sideways, and then coming down to break it. So that's what I anticipate. But this channel is ready to break. It has 3 touches to the top, 3 touches to the bottom. It is ready to break as is. So we might be seeing a push down, back test, and then continuation down. So this might also be the case. If I could see the future, I would tell you which one it is. In the meantime, I can show you the two pathways. But I believe that the trend is to the downside with that MACD on the daily like that. I don't think it's going anywhere else but down. But we might see a little breather. Okay, now let's talk about the bullish scenario as well, because it's good to keep both in mind. So what if we get up to the 50 on the 4 hour, consolidate, and then head up? Then we are primed for a lift to the upside towards the top line. And with all of these, how can I say, with all of these consolidations and buying of the dip here, because this is what happened here. With all of this, we are likely to get to a higher level, 25.5 or 26.6. These two would be my technical targets, because there's been a lot of zigzag. So anywhere around those levels, it would be very, very likely. If we do keep the 50 MA on the 4 hour as a support. I don't think that will be the case. I think what happened with the crossings of the 20 over the 50 on the 4 hour, we might get a back test of the 50, but that's the best that's going to happen today in terms of the upside. Okay. That's Bitcoin. Ethereum is in a similar situation, but Ethereum is not putting that much pressure on the bottom line of the structure. Ethereum's holding at the midline, and we could see from the midline, we have seen the back test. We could see continuation to the downside, and then a back test at the 50, and then more continuation to the downside. So the same scenario, because we are in a similar situation on the daily. The MACD is pushing down very strongly, but the stochastic is just now turning down. So the stochastic is doing one of these little dips that could lead to a strong push down. So there could be a strong push down from this little crossing here. There could be a strong push down, and for Ethereum, if we're looking at the levels, last night I posted a trade for an 0618 entry. It's been going great so far. No stop loss at the back test of the previous level. It did the back test. It's holding the level as support and it's heading down. Now, how far down is where we need to be cautious, because again, the stochastic on the 4 hour is pushing down and the 1 hour is coming from the top to push down. So these two will likely push this down, and we need to see if it's gonna push it down to the next level of support, 1514, or if it's just going to get down to 1545, which is where the support of this structure is. So 1540, 1514, these two are the main areas to watch to see if there is going to be a 1 hour bottoming out structure. Now, these are my thoughts for Ethereum and Bitcoin. I'll be posting these in the chats so that you have the updated versions of the charts. Again, it looks like we're gonna have more continuation to the downside. I am mindful where that continuation will be pushing down to, and then I'm mindful to see a bounce, especially on the 4 hour time frame, because the 4 hour time frame for Bitcoin is floored. I think for XRP it's floored as well, and for ETH as well. So we need to see a little bit of a bounce from that, and then or maybe there will be a complete bloodshed and down to the next level they go, 1514 and 18k for Bitcoin straight off. That could happen as well. That's the least likely scenario. I have seen that, but I don't see that very often. In my opinion, there will be a back test to the 50 on the 4 hour. So Ethereum might break it, because I think Ethereum is one step behind Bitcoin here. Ethereum might keep pushing down. Then there will be another back test to the 50, and then coming down and doing the proper drop from this. And the proper drop from this would be also correcting this swing. If I am to take this swing from here, the drop would take us to a 0.5 with a little bit of momentum down to the 0618. This is it. This is where I believe we're going down, small retrace, and then continuation down. We need to watch to see how the economic context is going to hold this week. It's going to be quite a volatile week. Again, I'm not in any position at the moment. I am watching for a short, and I am watching for New York to give me a spike to the upside, so that I could get a nice entry on 0618 and for BTC and 702 for XRP. So that would be it. I will see you guys tomorrow morning, and I'll keep you up to date around New York time. Thank you.